John Kumah, Johnny. She somewhere 2005. So na maybe secondary school for kra 2005 na me share one crime. Specifically Malam Road. Debiana me kwa adwuma SS ni ameye adwuma na ono so besina kwa na adwuma so awie university sa obesina kwa adwuma na ehia he no sio mame mesika tofom no si gata ne mu fama me ti o fama me na mesindana sina me top plantain chips no se me to bi man na msio mesika ndi aka ni eje plantain chips na me wi na bi na wi obusa mi din ni baby amete so sa time no naja enkra ha ma be dipa na me hye ni baby te me kire me nyonko bi fie ampa ne kwasi adam hu na or the Bible shana motiu mu a waba ho say or like after church you just want to come and say hi, and that's how our friendship began. Immediately now mommy who say he's going far and he really mean business with me. Until not long after, him say exactly 1 year. Yeah, exactly 1 year after our meeting, we got married. And we've been together for almost 18 years. Yeah, 18 years. So that's how we met. We met in Accra here, and it was love at first sight. He has been my mentor, my teacher, and we've been together, both good and bad times, even way before he became an active politician. I won't say politician because he has been a politician from school days, but actively, I think we were together when he had his first appointment from Honorable Alan John Kumah. So that's how it began. We have been together since, until just this unfortunate wicked Thursday.
So we've been told that when this sad incident happened, you were with him. If you could just paint a picture to the people of Ghana, the circumstances.
I wish I would not be asked to narrate this part, but yeah. He returned from Germany on Sunday. Monday he went to work, very strong and active. Tuesday he went to Parliament, but Tuesday he realized that he was not that strong. But he returned all the way from Germany just to attend the 6th March. So he was determined to be at Ajusu just to be part of the 6th March. I tried everything to discourage him, but once a soldier, always a soldier, madly in love with his country and what he is doing. So he left, and then I think Wednesday, and I called him on the voice, no answer on the well on the phone, and I make a chance say, "On try so beba, Accra na on returning back to Germany." But I said no funny thing, so I decided to drive to Kumasi. So I drove to Kumasi. Unfortunately, me drove no more Thursday around 7:30. We drove on na my husband couldn't move. Na he didn't need ambulance. Until me pack me jam me car ne de ma me brothers say omo fambra na me tin ambulance nim. And he went this high and then gave me a thumbs up, which mostly a sign or yes sir, naturally say, "Oh, I'm in control, don't worry." That's I felt very relieved, say, "Oh, you're okay." But yeah, nam quite so I'm saying tough. So around 11 he said rather he showed a sign of why he relieved the ankasa. And then no sweaty earlier. No, after Musa said there was no sweat, but I have a little medical background. Me share machine this na who say no, things are dropping and she done encouraging. Though the doctor, I was with the doctor, the personal doctor, and so on and so can, as well as the technicians in the ambulance. They were all trying to comport themselves and no more yes me move, but Memphis as a pastor there, that time I was seriously praying, trusting God said but unfortunately I'm say that 11:35 now the doctor raised the alarm, said no, yempe any nearby hospital na man for rest na on timi mano CPU and Saka na yatoaso and na no musenya constant oxygen na on shot. He wants to stabilize him. And the nearest hospital was Suhum. Yes, ye faho. And I didn't rush Suhum. Ye promise ye be oma near any delay artist. Me say quickly they brought the oxygen. Doctors came out. Not long ago, no back me say the ambulance need in a buy, you know, and you're strong. I say so I should take another car, na Fanko. Now I'm the neighbor 37. Na me say no. And she done your story, Papa. It's not simple, but I say me who na assign when I know what necessary. Yeah, actually say any panico. Finally, Doctor Negadakari Lokachem said they did their best, but
So this was about what time?
That's around 12:20. Yeah, I think the time confirming that was 12:20. I think the reason why I remember that time say, hey JK, we are way at this hour. You can't live like that. But unfortunately, I was hoping that me say I'm 80, so I insisted. So I'm fanning bra. Me wujidi unyami mu say obepa ni pedua ni mu biem. But as at now, I'm still hoping that a nightmare. Sorry, I said prank, and I said. Miracle. I'm still hoping.
I can understand your pain, but following the sad news about your husband's death, there's been so much commentary about speculations as to what killed him and all that. I'm sure this has come to your knowledge. What are your thoughts on this speculation that is going on?
In fact, that aspect saddens me more than even his dismay, because I believe he's with God. Even if he's not here in body, I still believe he's alive, and definitely everything will go on. But the way they are speculating about his death is really unfortunate and it's discouraging. And in fact, Mama is disappointed in even the legal systems in Ghana. Argentina obi aye bold eka and some say onipa odine ho abo for say ama mine. This guy lived all his life for this nation, right from campus. And if indeed say obi a poison ebra na oye adwuma ama oman and in a political party, why should we sit down and not bring that person to book? Now, just say then this country is not worth living. In fact, living for, left alone to talk about dying for. If it's true, say obi timi nipa or ye living being on your ghost to say on him how my husband died, that he was poisoned. And that person is still moving around for the past 3 weeks. Just say, I am a jana, I am a rehona, meaning how I make us say, a mrebi was as a crew mu a casampa, I think this is the time, and I'm telling the laws of the land and even the leadership of the land that they should bring that, that wicked man, that, I don't know, the Captain Smart is all children, Omumbe Nimpi. And yes, on my way, me and Casami Mubabi and Punu Obesumo Mino. If say the Captain Smart say ka, me the minim ni se mi kunu yare. Minim se mi kunu yare. But the Captain Smart say ye poison. No evidence, no mind we say a maya, a was will be soon. Now or didn't cry to Homa, or Mama no credit neddy. And yes, sir, me and Casampuna Mekano, no child of my womb will serve this country. Because now it's very disappointing. How can a guy who has dedicated his life, now be in the name of journalism, cheap propaganda, I can some way speculate so our father. I don't know that's what you media anyway, ye nipa. Ebia nenye mikunu yare ne kuno. But the also onima te krono. Mo manena. Omomotia e manipa no. MP na Captain Smart emechire me. Kameta na se. Pass otimi yi evidence ni yi nipa ni pie ma me ankameta na se. Na kameta na se na me nim se John Kumah we free by two body ntwene. Ye wo enimdiefo wo man mu, ye wa doctorfo. Omo nkoso ni enanka omo ni nyina omo maye hu. Omo maye hu. Cause ade ya ne se wahwera de na wo dwene ho. Na media ne nso a ewo omo eno so sakra I say kura tu no omo sisa mekogu. That is how I feel this year. Oh no way di nam ha ye kunwe ya yesi na se bi se yete ha de John Kumah ye nyina ma oman ne abusua na sampani ampa so obi a yesi ne yentimi anye hwea ne abusuafo ne nyina so ye ni adwene nti media de mesa me fa mo media yi so enkwanko dro mampani ho se mesre no Captain Smart is onim de okumi kuno ti omomode ama Captain Smart moaye na de okumi kuno no yem chino na de mrase yem amra ni ni
ba said ya wo chero ebusua de edim se mode hye no se be yare ene beto no kwan mu ena yare nti ena mode ma adwen mu no yakopon aton sa afre no eno ne kwan na
aja minimi kuno said ya meka ena ati yare ba me na menene ne ko Germany ebra ye ko pray ye minim doctor bi an kan kire me da se poison ba kumpa ko mikun mo jemu ye minim ni se yade ene ye diagnose ye we around August ena ye die kira ne yakko John Kumah ginai o ye bi ofade adimu wa ma wan show akukudrumpa yenya ye de tiase eye de wa papa show ye pains ana wonam enso wan show pain da de na wo so gina ye bia of pain mu na waye. And one motto behind this in the Bioka, we don't do what is convenient, we do what we are commanded to do. We are not living out of convenience, we are doing what is necessary. It's not about now, it's about the future, it's about impact, it's about legacy. So in spite of all the pain he endured, and then all the shame crying from the bedside everywhere, into Dr. Bia me day one I've been me a part of the medical team, both Germany and this place. Obien will catch them with that say a poison. There were medical reports I will have both from Germany and this country. In can poison yourself. Obian can food poison. And say I am a mama. Ye me dear send them it here. Minim yade kumikunu. Any poison. Me suffer. Me njina ha mpe cheap fe enfanje hwe. nti ade nkumi kunu me nkasa kunu sebi se obi ade a aye John Kumah ha me ba penny kura was just 16 years. The last born of 4 on D5. So be na a poison papaya. Me the first person I me pese me. Or baby shop kolani na mama. But me my enfadia. Any moon pese the two papa wa bobra. The 45 years now. Omo say just you know. John has lived more than some 90 years. Omunya better opportunity in life than him. So I won't say what is not there. As far as I'm concerned, my husband was sick. I know the sickness. I won't lie. And that's what I know, it killed him. So if anybody know anything, I want to know.
So as we begin to wrap up this conversation, I know that there is a popular pastor around who has been fingered as having prophesied and all that. We are told that this is a pastor that you know personally, you have had a relationship with. Can you tell us a bit about it and why the claims that he makes should be discredited?
Again, I don't know, this country, no, anyone who say omoka asembia obia hold you more responsible into obia per se onya ni fame ananse oba public notice na ope obia owa bontin na wodi ne ho abata no akeka nsem. Niger Gazi, let me go straight. Niger Gazi was like a brother. Onim lawyer John Kumah personally, one-on-one. Yatne fie editida, that is how far. O free akwanti mubaya or best start as of way back or start on one ministry. Church, Disciples of Christ ministry. Obaho, mia menini program. Let the prophet speak. Inti minimum one-on-one. Ya where even somewhere November that John Kumah is seriously sick. Me a woman of God. Inti aso for die asem to me a omo na me run first. Me ni fathers Ghana ha father or woman mu a ebia no ankasa John Kumah ne kro te se sofo. Oye sofo ankasa wo preach. Onimu no na nipa no wo fa. Or was special place for pastors. The men of God you knew agro, including Tamano or Jason Niger Gazi Yamini Papa. Onokrano Kamoa, Omo, ni pay rules, Niger Gazi. Into when assembling in answer Papa Yare, our ya way, and Sana when him assembly from August, November, and at 31st, Okojina and Water Suchas and Kuntumpono. And would this and Trono, say. And the way crowd, she said, you're picking as someone say, yes, see a Ghana deputy minister. But why you know this man? You know his name, you know his house, you know his wife. One-on-one. So why do you have to lie? And then what Beijing was washing come manabim. And true we are do benya day. Unhuno, Embezia, no yare. I will name that in him so or no fano. Na Niger Gazi no the emiyane say otimi hunu say obi yare ohune ma pe no on say hu nkofo yede na ope wo mo na ne de nyame ntwa nkyere no ohu Ghana empanyifo ansem beto won ono ani fie na wode ma asem ama na yere firi ono ndi ohun ye eni di ohun ye me am say busane say de enti an church obeko bia na yapam no baby obedru bi okofo obi yere. And you'll be say, I'm a woman of God. Minjina radio so any side no. Niger Gazi is not a prophet, a fake man of God, a cheap liar, and a womanizer. From obi oyi enkofo yere and odi echiri. Me amijina ombu adempo oni ni die, and I can't challenge him anywhere. This is a painful moment, and I don't expect anybody to take unnecessary advantage of us. Bisanidi and say a relationship. Ombe ye no ano die enti na ema enne ontimi ngina ya sorry dem ho emba altar so me preach bi die enti na even Church of God obo ase the whole Ghana Kumasi ontimi nko ho bi eno na o menya nkopon ena na di na o ma ne ho ahoden a odi be gyan nkofo yere emu soso ne omo ho nko na amane nkwa awa na so sise ya na obedi na sofodie ni dia onka hyen koduru John Kumah de wawie ni de ono no so ye sofo ye gyan ni nyina ma nyame onyame ndi ni ntamasem de me wo ka kire na no kura bia nim wo ye trofo wonim se John yare and or ya we and or de ko hyenko. That is not prophecy, that is fakeism.
So, Mommy, as we begin to wrap up, we know that there's a difficult journey ahead of you and the family. Since you're a woman of God, I know you know the scriptures and you are going to fortify yourself. But generally tell me, how is the family that John Kumah has left behind? How are they faring?
It's not easy. Both his mother and father, nobody's taking it easy because I can fall back and say you do time I in energy as from and etuato. It's not simple. I think say the all can some of us from where we are standing and then you name our papa na pray. So sometimes we take consolation from Nyamia Semu. And the fact is or prepare your movie. And yes, simple and kwalani and yes, simple, but I know what John wants. He doesn't want me to break down. He never wanted me to see him in pain. Oshia Miana me a soft girl, young girl, 18 years. The motive I want just to train me as a strong woman. And I accomplish it. Say and son me be this of say ya share one thing say yeah, rather no we want to live to appreciate his memory because we know say that is just a transition. I know he can hear me now. Yeah. I know he can see me and it's paprika. It's paprika. That is not the final thing. That is not fatal. It's just a transition. And he's in a better position now to view all that we are doing. So this is the time to make him proud. This is the time to defend his legacy and to take care. I know Nkolani Shisha, Johnny is certain that we won't put him to shame. Yenim di ope, ye bechina. Esu di aji ensemwa esubi, ye nipa. And so deep down in us, we know he's with us, and we are strong. We are trusting God all the way, and that we know that God will see us through. Among all the things, Ujaye Nyame, one place that they need home, and it's obey Bibi Nyame. Obey even in the last day. Sorry, them changing him a baby. It cost him a lot, but he insisted that he say or pet the best for God. And meaning say John is with the Lord. And he's seeing us. Yeah, share one thing. Nah, I know many papa na any new no make home. In fact, you put in Kwani, I should Ghana man in Ashra. I share one thing. Because John wants us to be strong. God no cry, he stays strong till the last.
Has lost a very good servant. Wilberforce is still here in the studio, and I was just monitoring sentiments on social media as this was playing out, the interview. A number of people are like, okay, so maybe Mrs. Kumah or Apostle Lillian should not have spoken too soon. Others are saying, well, when so much reckless rumor mongering is rife, sometimes you must set aside tradition and nip it in the bud. I'm not going to ask you your thoughts on that, but but what I would like to know is, you had conversations with Apostle Lillian Kumah. That was off the record. Further to that, there's a publication that we've just come across on Ghana Web. Do you mind telling us what that is about?
Well, so the Ghana Web publication is essentially about the autopsy report, which the Ghana Web says it has chanced on.
Okay.
And the autopsy report, as is being reported by Ghana Web, indicates that according to Ghana Web sources, the autopsy conducted on Friday, March 8, 2024, by certified pathologists determined the cause of his death as due to multiple myeloma, which is a type of blood cancer. And that is what the Ghana Web is reporting. And it goes again to say that following the death of the Deputy Minister for Finance on Thursday, March 7th, multiple reports attributed his death to poisoning. And so if you compare the autopsy report, the fact that it has something to do with a blood-related cancer.
Yeah, it's actually, so multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells. The plasma cells are a type of white blood cells. And when they become cancerous, they then spread very quickly, and it damages bones, the immune system, kidneys, and your red blood cell count. As you know, your red blood cell is a very important part of the blood. You know, it's, I wouldn't call it, I mean, if you remember, I think for me, the very first time I came across cancer of the blood was when the late Danny White came public with his diagnosis of leukemia. It is not, now looking back, the last time I saw and spoke to Dr. Kumah, my initial comment was, we all want to look trim and fit, but John, you're not looking well. If this is weight loss, it's not, you know, and it says, well, I've not been well, but thank God I'm on the mend and I'm undergoing treatment. So you could tell that the very stout and gently imposing stature with which we knew him was not there. He still carried himself with dignity, and his grace was very evident. But you could tell that the man's body was no longer what we know it to be.
And listening to the wife, you would get to realize that John was somebody who didn't like to show weakness. So that even when he was weak, he would strengthen himself and get things done. And it was evident in the fact that throughout the period, if you look at the period under review, since his actual sickness was diagnosed sometime July, August 2023, till the date he finally went to be with the Lord, you would see that even in the midst of those circumstances, while he was not well, he was still very active as deputy minister. When the finance minister, as recent as the current finance minister was appointed, he was in his company to go and see the Asantehene. He actually did the talking.
Yeah, so he was the Ochami of the day, the linguist who spoke.
So it should just tell you that this is somebody who strengthened himself in the God that he believed in, and continued to do the things he did until the last day when he went to be with the Lord. So yes, the interview has a few parts. Maybe after your telephone conversation, we could just talk about the few parts, because it is about how they met. Beyond how they met, the circumstances surrounding the last days or the last day of Mr. Kumah, and then the issue about the poisoning, the issue about an alleged prophecy, and then also finally how the family is holding
the prophecy, in no uncertain terms. And I mean, it's quite a very revelatory interview, and I think it in my mind, it puts to rest a lot of things. Because, when I heard the rumors of poisoning and all of these things, I started thinking, I was like, okay, so what? Ghana Yampadepa. So if indeed that he was on a certain trajectory to greatness, which would benefit this nation, how does one justify using, such foul means
to eliminate him.
It's a very disturbing situation, but this has led me to, and this is something we've been talking about for quite a while, but on the same day, a very nice, affable man also gave up the ghost. A good friend of mine. Same for Aaron and a bunch of guys. Niayitego. This is a guy we called Pinches. David Robinson, Ayi. It threw me into a state of ponder, and a lot of us here were talking about this, and we're wondering, what is it about our society today that we're seemingly seeing some sort of a spike in deaths amongst people under the age of 50? And these are people who are in their prime. These are people who you would say, well, worst case scenario, if all things being equal, they have 15 more years of active service to the nation, to their family, to work life, and to be able to leave a legacy and retire and live a decent life. And these people are dying. Sudden deaths all over. Our colleague in the industry who's 1 week celebration,
Kwame Kwachi.
Another example. What is it that's creating all of this? Now, there's some questions that you'll always ask and never be able to get an answer. But fortunately, we have people who are studying these trends and are able to help us understand where these challenges are coming from, or potentially how we can stave them. We're joined on the line by Dr. Ifwa Kumah, Acting Programs Manager, Non-Communicable Diseases at the Ghana Health Service. A few years ago, Dr. Kumah presented a paper a scientific paper at an event that I happened to have been. And at the time, I was amazed when she started talking about the number of people who were dying in the causes of death in Ghana. And she said, in that list, you'd be amazed that non-communicable diseases were 5 of the top 10 were non-communicable diseases. Now we're going to learn some more of this, and this is going to be a series of conversations to help us understand what these conditions are and what we can do to ensure that we're avoiding being struck by them. Good morning, Dr. Kumah, and thank you so much for making time for us today.
Hi, Israel. Good morning.
It's a very heavy morning, but God knows best. And in his infinite wisdom, he's also granted us the ability to study, the ability to understand our world, and the will to make the right decisions. My simple question this morning is, from a public health perspective, why are we seeing so many people die before the age of 50?
Thank you very much, Ishra, for the opportunity to once again highlight issues, health-related issues, as right here with us in Ghana.
Right, we seem to be having a bit of a challenge with the telephone line. We're going to try and rectify it quickly and get back on the line with Dr. Ifwa Kumah. She is the Acting Programs Manager, Non-Communicable Diseases, Ghana Health Service. Now, I chanced on a site which is Our Health in Data. Now, if you go to ourhealthindata.org, you'll find a study, a graph that's been rendered over a timeline from 1999 to 2019, Wilberforce. And it will amaze you that from 1999 to date, there has been several different deaths, different diseases and conditions attributed to death. But I think we have Dr. Kumah back on the line. Sorry, I think we have a better line now. Can you hear us?
Yes, sure I can.
And we can hear you loud and clear as well. So you were just helping us understand what could potentially be the reason why a lot of people are dying before the age of 50.
Yes, sure. I was mentioning that there's something we call a global transitioning, in that in the early 90s, globally, the infectious diseases were more prominent in terms of causes of death. Now, the global community ranks the topmost causes of death for each region of the world, and then even comes down to the country level, what is accounting for the most deaths. And in the early 90s in Ghana, you had largely the infectious diseases, such as respiratory tract infections, the enteric infections, maternal and childhood. These diseases were leading in terms of what was causing a lot of deaths in Ghana in the early 90s. Something like cardiovascular diseases, so you talk about heart attacks, hypertension, amongst other diseases, were way below the ranking. But according to the global burden of HIV, as at 2019, cardiovascular diseases had become number one causes of death in Ghana. About the hypertensions, the heart attacks, the strokes, these have sort of overtaken the infectious diseases for us in terms of causes of death. And globally, this is recognized as a transitioning because, we have invested so much into the infectious disease because it was seen that that is what was causing the most havoc. However, as we are developing and making progress in life, even life expectancy is increasing. Our stresses are also much higher than a couple of decades back. As a result, we are also exposed to a lot more risk factors for these non-community factors of healthy diet. By virtue of how we are living now, we are moving less and less. There's a lot of physical inactivity. There's a lot of obesity, even among the children. There's a lot of these fast food joints that are popping up. There's a lot, we are consuming more alcohol, using tobacco, and these are the risk factors that also fuel the non-communicable diseases. When you add to the environment that we find ourselves, how we have also structured our lives, and we are having to meet such unrealistic timelines and deadlines. Everybody seems to be in some kind of a rush in at least our urban centers, such that if you are not careful, by the end of the week, if you're actually tracking your number of steps, you'd have noticed that you have done less than 10% of what is ideally recommended, and that's obviously going to have implications on your health. A few years back, something like stroke, you'd be expecting 60, 70-year-olds who are coming down with stroke. Unfortunately, now you have as early as 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and these are people in the prime of their lives. Our productive workforce are the people that are coming down with these debilitating conditions, right? That we are not only losing people to the productivity, families are being affected. I mean, it has such rippling effect on the economy as well. And for us, that is reflecting in what we are seeing in the grocery zones and the water shop. Ultimately, our disease burden, the picture is changing, and it's extremely important that as a country we recognize this and then put in certain strategic measures to ensure that we can have a grip on these non-communicable diseases as much as possible, Israel.
Dr. Kumah, thanks so much. We're also joined on the line by Dr. Lawrence Ofreboedu. Dr. Ofreboedu is also with the Ghana Health Service, and it's an area that we all really want to pay attention to. I'm sure that all of us will attest to the fact that we've read or seen or know of a number of people who have passed away in their prime. Dr. Lawrence Oforibuedu is the acting director of Institutional Care Division of the Ghana Health Service. Dr. Oforibuedu, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Now, we really, from what Dr. Kumah has said, it would require further discussion to understand what kinds of non-communicable diseases are at the root of a lot of these deaths. But help us appreciate from your perch, are there any findings in terms of trends and demographics that we can try and understand? Does one become more predisposed to these things as you hit a certain age?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't join by the Zoom, but I'm doing the audio because of where I find myself.
We appreciate that.
Yes, I didn't hear much from Kumah, but I remember he mentioned certain lifestyle and age group that is unusual about NCD, but we are now seeing them because either to non-communicable diseases were not for the young people. But nowadays, we are finding a lot of young people going down with some of these critical non-communicable diseases, and as such, having effect on our economy and our workforce. Demographically, non-communicable diseases are more prone to those of us who are in the black race, and also among the Asians and the Africans. But if you look at lifestyle modification, it appears because of the nature of and our workforce for the people who are within this geographical area, they attempt to be more of a lower income country. So we tend to do a lot of more manual work. And that lifestyle actually helped us. It helped our older folks. But now, sharply, those of us living in the lower income countries, we have also changed our lifestyle. We are living in air-conditioned rooms, sitting in air-conditioned cars. We get to office with air condition. We don't exercise. We are taking the junk food. We don't take the consomme and the meko and then the cordial roll like that. Now we all take burgers and pizzas and other stuff. So this sharp change in our lifestyle has really affected us because those of us living in the lower and middle income countries, we have not structured our community to enable us exercise, to enable us do some cycling, to enable us do some walking around. And so this sharp change of our lifestyle is really having a toll on those of us in the sub-Saharan Africa and the Asian countries. And therefore, most of our youth and our workforce are going down with hypertension, with the strokes and diabetics, and each antecedent or each complication, which we see it as strokes, being very common complication we are seeing from our NCD. So I think we need to consciously take a critical look at our lifestyle from these lower income countries, and then consciously redesign our communities to encourage exercising and some lifestyle modifications that will minimize the risk of non-communicable diseases. If you work in the hospitals, where I spend most of my working hours with it is very pathetic. A lot of young men are now going down with complications of NCDs like the strokes. Most women are very careful because they come to hospital early when they have issues, but the men will never come. So if you take the gender balance, most men are going down with some of these conditions unaware, and they wait until they are struck by the condition and these complications before we report to the hospital. And that is really not the best for us as a country. So I think in brief, that is the trend we are seeing. More of the working class group, more of the men are going down with complications. The women may have it, they go to hospital early, they go through the medications, but the men don't go, they don't do the checkups, they wait until they are struck down before we identify them.
Right.
And so I think in brief, this is where I can start a conversation. If there are any other things that you want me to contribute, I'll wait and come in at an appropriate time. Absolutely.
And we're grateful, Dr. Ofori-Boadu. Dr. Kumah, I would like for you to go over the list of the diseases that are contributing to the most deaths. Now, I chanced upon some data from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. And if you're watching the stream on Facebook, we're just going to be sharing a graph, which is basically a study that was done between 1990 and 20. And this was just the data. And it shows that right from 1990, at the top of the list was cardiovascular diseases. But if you followed by the cancers and others. But if you go through this, you'd realize that HIV, tuberculosis started climbing, and then by 2001 through to 2003 to 2005, HIV/AIDS had overtaken all other diseases, accounting for 34%. Well, I think at the time it was about 1.3 million deaths being recorded for that. Now, what are the range of diseases that today you're finding is contributing to more deaths?
Thank you very much, Inshra. So just as you shared in the slide presentation, these changes, although that is our reality now, if even you take the cardiovascular diseases that it's sort of a lump of conditions. So when you split it up, you are going to have your hypertension in there, you are going to have your ischemic heart disease, you are going to have your myocardial infarction or heart attack in there, amongst other conditions. So even for the cardiovascular diseases alone, it's a whole myriad of conditions that we are seeing all reflected for us right here in Ghana. Dr. Ofori-Boadu talked about some of our unhealthy habits that we seem to have adopted as a community. Now, unfortunately, even for what we eat, we sort of have put a reward system to some of these fast food diets that we find across the country. You tell your child that, oh, if you do so well in school or if you're first in class, I'll take you to, and the next thing is a fast food joint that so ultimately the child sort of looks forward to. But when you talk about lifestyle, it's acquired. So it means that if we consciously sensitize the young ones, it's critical that we are able to conscientize them for healthier options, because you are what you eat. There are some of the non-communicable diseases that a few of them, there's not much that you can do about it by virtue of our genetic makeup, amongst others. But for a larger chunk of them, there's so much that we can do. Just reducing your weight by just about 7% is going to be able to cut down your chances of diabetes by as much as 60%. Just reducing your salt intake. So averagely, if you are adding on extra salt at table, withholding that extra salt is going to reduce the blood pressure of everybody who is consuming that diet. But we've acquired some of these tastes so much that for some people, if you don't put in additional salt, the diet is not nice. But this niceness comes at a cost. And that cost is the untimely death, a lot of disability, as well as acquiring the non-communicable diseases that we are talking about. For the larger community, sometimes, most of the risk factors have something to do with sectors outside of health. That's why it's extremely important that we take a more holistic look at the non-communicable diseases as a society. Now, I'm even afraid to recommend physical activities because of some of the dangers that we have seen on our roads. People try engaging in physical activity and they're by car because the nature of our roads are such that pedestrians have very little room to maneuver if they want to exercise. In other places, pedestrian spaces are sort of mandatory, such that roads will not be made unless you've created spaces for people to walk and exercise if they want to. So I believe that as a country, there's so much that we can do, consciously putting in efforts to reduce the risk factors, creating an enabling environment such that you make it difficult for people to access these unhealthy diets. For our school children, giving them healthier options, encouraging everybody to consume fruits and vegetables, planting our own fruits and vegetables and reducing the contamination from pesticides, amongst others. These are low-hanging fruits that I believe we can put in, measures that we can put in. And also consciously investing in non-communicable diseases, because ultimately, if we are not deliberate about addressing these non-communicable diseases, it's just a ticking time bomb. In no time at all, majority of our youth are going to be down with one NCD or the other. And it's only a matter of time before our whole productive workforce is affected. We are seeing the telltale signs. For people who are already diagnosed, a global hypertension report came out towards the end of in 2023. And for the report on Ghana, it mentioned that averagely we have about 34% of our adult population having hypertension. This is a global report. For those who have hypertension, we are able to diagnose only about 50% of them. So we have half of the hypertensive population who are undiagnosed. And these are the people who are most likely going to have water shocks. Oh, nothing happened to him and suddenly they collapse because they are undiagnosed. So they are walking about with constantly rising blood pressure. Before you realize, the next thing is a stroke. Even for people who are diagnosed, only 37% are treated, and 19%, that is less than 1 in 5, have their blood pressure under control. We need to look at our medicines. As we are looking at the healthier options, what kind of medicines are even on our market that patients need to access? So there are obvious systemic issues that involve both the health sector and then the non-health sector. And our strategic partners, such as the media, patient groups, local and international partners, it's extremely important that we are all able to join forces to address these non-communicable diseases, because it's only a matter of time for all of us to come down with one NCD or the other. Thank you very much, Inshira.
Thank you so much for this. But I would like for you to just list the top 10 diseases, if you could, that are contributing, or top 10 conditions contributing to the most deaths in Ghana.
Thank you very much. So for the from the global burden of disease survey, the number 1 is cardiovascular disease, number 2 is respiratory infection, number 3 is NCDs and malaria, number 4. So these cancers, you have breast, cervical cancers, prostate cancers, and even childhood cancers. All of them have been grouped together, and they are the top 4 cause of death for us in Ghana. Then you have the maternal and neonatal death. Number 6 is HIV and AIDS. Number 7 is diabetes and chronic kidney disease. So the complication is actually appearing in number 7. It's not just the diabetes as well. Number 8, you have the digestive diseases. Number 9, enteric infections. And then other NCDs as well. For the other NCDs, you have things for us like sickle cell, things for us like mental health issues, substance abuse, amongst others. And right after the number 10, number 11 is transport injuries, which are also considered non-communicable disease. So our road traffic accidents are causing a lot of harm for us as a country, and the other conditions follow accordingly.
You know, this is quite alarming because Dr. Veribwedu, very, very alarming. And you know, I know Dr. Kumah is focused more on the public health and epidemiology space, but you're a clinician, so you're seeing people presenting. At what stages are some of these non-communicable diseases being presented for treatment? Dr. Veribwedu, do we still have you? Oh, yes, we do.
Hello?
Yes, so I was wondering that from a clinician's perspective, at what stage are some of these non-communicable diseases being brought to the attention of the hospital? I mean, as for vehicular and transportation injuries, those we know they're emergencies, so they'll happen immediately. But some of these things that never really show symptoms, at what stages are you getting to see them presented?
All right, thank you very much. You know, from what Dr. Kumah just talked about, our disease treatment cycle goes through 5 stages. So if you want to manage every condition, the first stage for the management will start from prevention. So there are a lot of ongoing activities, and that's what Dr. Kumah mentioned. If you want to prevent them, you have to change our diet, you have to exercise. So that's the first step. The second step is about health promotion, where we do preventive care and then promotion, where people are told what to do, what to put.
All right, Dr. Veribwedu, I think your line is being a little choppy. If you could reposition yourself, maybe we might get a better line. While we wait for Dr. Veribwedu, let me just try and recount the list. So, number 1, cardiovascular diseases. And this is a list of conditions that are contributing to the most deaths in Ghana. And this is according to a global study. Now, respiratory diseases, number 2. And then at number 3, there's NCDs and malaria. And then number 4 is cancers from breast, prostate, cervical, you name it. All the cancers are lumped in together. And then maternal and neonatal deaths. That's at number 5. HIV and AIDS are number 6. Diabetes and I think chronic, Dr. Kumah, help me, was it chronic kidney?
Yes, sure. Chronic kidney disease.
Yes, chronic kidney disease and diabetes. That's at number 7. And number 8 is digestive disorders. Number 9, I think I missed that.
It's enteric infections.
Enteric, okay, enteric.
Yes.
So, yeah. So enteric, and then number 10.
It's still other non-communicable
Other
diseases.
non-communicable disease. And in number 11, which is worth noting, is transport injuries. Now, this is very broad. So we're up against a lot. Let's see if Dr. Veribwedu is back on the line. Dr. Veribwedu, do we have you?
Yes, please.
This is much better. So you were just telling us, how there are 5 stages in managing any condition.
Yeah, that's right. So I talk about preventive, promotive, curative.
Mm-hmm.
We go to rehabilitation, and then we go to what we call end-of-life care.
Okay.
So
is that the same as palliative care?
That's the palliative.
Okay.
So if you look at the discussion very well, Dr. Kumah has been putting emphasis on how best to prevent and promote our health.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the cheapest and the most effective way of managing NCDs. But then what we are observing in our clinic is that many of the people who come, they come on the third stage, that's the creative way.
Mm-hmm.
And they are corporates or people who have never taken the preventive and the promotive care seriously.
Right.
And these people include myself and you.
Mm.
Because many a times we are so busy, there's so much stress on us. You don't have time to exercise. You don't have time to have a healthy diet. Whatever is brought on our table on lunch, we pick and choose and eat something. So we will be there until somebody tells us that, oh, it looks like you don't look well. It looks like now when you talk, we don't hear you well. Then you come to the hospital only to be told that your BP is very high.
Mm.
And for the first time, so I'm not aware that I have BP, because for a long time I haven't done any medical screening. I haven't gone for any health promotive program. So people normally come in the third stage unaware. And they come with severe hypertension with a very high BP value. They come with adult onset diabetes because they were never told they have diabetes. But because of their lifestyle modifications, they start developing high blood sugar level. And then some of the unfortunate ones come with blood vision or near blindness. You go and check, and it's because of the high BP. Some of them also come with stroke. And then some of them also come in death. So these are the patterns of how NCD is being manifested in our clinic.
Mm.
And so we say that, and it's very costly treating people who come in this stage compared to the cost of education and going to preventive measures.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really a burden on the state when you don't take the first 3 stages seriously, but want to wait and come in only when you have a high BP or high blood sugar, or you have stroke or blindness due to uncontrolled conditions, or even becoming a chronic kidney disease and other conditions that are commonly mentioned. So that is the trend we are seeing. And I think that trend can be reversed if we take conscious effort as a state and also as individuals to go through the preventive and the promotive health therapy. And in so doing, we'll be able to save ourselves and the state a lot of money and resources.
Dr. Furbudu, you raise some very grave concerns, and if we pay attention to the preventive stage and the health promotion stages, Dr. Kumah, help me understand this better. I got to learn about a lot of different conditions because during my time in the UK, anytime I've been to the GP's office, while waiting for my turn, I'm able to read a whole bunch of leaflets that promote knowledge about conditions and how to deal with them and all of these things. Would that fall within the classification of health prevention and promotion, the availability of knowledge? And what can we do differently in Ghana to ensure that more and more people are aware of the dangers of the things they think are cool and status symbols, but really are contributing to killing them in the long run?
Thank you, Ishra. So what you described is some form of health education, but you realize that you mentioned that you read these things when you went to see the GP. In our community, our health-seeking behavior is quite different from other races. I mean, for want of a better word, pardon me if I'm wrong. But for us, you would hardly go to the hospital if you are not sick. In times past, our whole health behavior has been such that we would resort to almost everything else except to go to the hospital until finally we are struck down by something. Then we rush in. So that the concept of preventive and promotive health care is such that it is at the time when you don't feel sick that you can actually go screen or check whether there's some underlying condition that has started that you can quickly nip in the bud if any of these dangers are ongoing. If you take something like hypertension, for instance, hypertension is called a silent killer because when your blood pressure starts rising, you feel nothing at all. There are no symptoms. By the time the person starts having probably a constant headache, is unable to sleep, feels jittery and all that, at that moment, it means the blood pressure is extremely high such that you are virtually in the red zone. And if you are not careful, the next stage would be developing a. So we keep advocating that for all of us, at the time when you don't feel sick at all, you're not feeling any symptoms at all, at least go get wellness check done. When you go to either a health facility or even these are community pharmacies are also doing quite well. They've got the blood sugar check, they've got the blood pressure check. They can quickly do this use these point of care tests and tell you whether something looks abnormal and if to redirect you to where you can seek help. Screening is something that traditionally is not part of us. In other health systems, when your time for screening is up, they would hunt you down to make sure that you can't do the screening so that they don't sit and wait for you to go on to develop, let's say, a cancer, for you to now become a burden on the health system. Because once you develop the cancer and treatment is that the cost of cancers are so high that we cannot afford to wait until the cancers have set in. If you are screening, for instance, cervical cancer or even breast cancers, you just a hand and a breast. And the clinical exam is done. It is less than 5 minutes for the nurse, community health officer, or somebody to undertake the clinical breast exam for you. And you are out. If they pick up any suspicious lesions, together with your history, they can redirect you. Cervical cancers, we have what we call VI inspection. The midwife looks at the cervix, applies some medicines, and within 5 minutes, it's able to tell whether some changes have started. Mind you that some of these cancers take decades, but within that time, if screening is done, a solution can easily be found. These screening tests are so easy to do and cheap. However, compare that to somebody going on to develop frank cancers. That if we are not careful, you might actually not survive. That's how come our mortality rates are so high.